airborne shooter, and the importance of Rule 4. Let's get into the very first definition in the rule book, and that is airborne shooter. Airborne shooter is Rule 4-1 in any of the rule books that I referenced, the National Federation and NCAA Rulebook. So Rule 4-1 says, an airborne shooter is a player who has released the ball on a try or tap for goal, or has tapped the ball and has not returned to the floor. Rule 4-2 says, an airborne shooter is considered in the act of shooting. As you can see here, NCAA men's and NCAA women's uses the same basic wording. Now this is why Rule 4 is so important, because this is a basically very simple rule or article in the rule. So let me show you some examples of what I mean by an airborne shooter that I just read. Let's show an example. In this first example, we have a shooter who is in the act of shooting or attempting to be active shooting and leaves the floor. Once he has left the floor, he is considered an airborne shooter until he comes back to the floor with one or both feet. In this second example, we have a shooter, once again, leaves the floor to shoot, and whether he has the ball or not, comes back to the floor where he is no longer an airborne shooter. And in the final example, just a shooter, again, is he an airborne shooter right now? He is until he reaches the floor. Again, this is just a basic definition, and this is how definitions work. Now, why do you need to know what an airborne shooter is? Because if an airborne shooter is contacted illegally during the course of them in the air before they come back to the floor, they are considered in the act of shooting. If they come back to the floor, even though the ball is not going through the basket, or if the shooting attempt is completely over, they are no longer considered an airborne shooter, and illegal contact at that time would not consider them to be in the act of shooting. So this could be a difference of whether we award free throws or whether we award the ball out of bounds just based off of that definition. Also, another element to airborne shooter is that if an airborne shooter commits a foul while they are considered in the act of shooting or considered an airborne shooter, they could be considered still in player control and cause a player control foul. I will get into this later, what the definition of a player control foul is. But just for the argument's sake or just for discussion purposes, we need to know that because it makes a difference whether we award shots or even whether we take them away. Don't forget to subscribe, like the videos, and hit the bell so you can get updates on new videos. Thank you for watching Officiating Born Training.